Are here at Ngozi Talk Shows, Find Your Own Voice, Lead from Within. With me today, I have Grant and Shireen. Shireen, how are you guys?
I'm good, thank you, Nomsa. Great to see both of you and Grant.
Yeah, good to see you guys.
Looking forward to a great conversation.
Good to see
yes.
you.
So, the topic today is the power of paradigm and how to recognize and shift your mindset. We are on this video today, we are going to explore the concept of paradigm and how they shape our beliefs and behaviors, and hopefully our coaches, they're going to offer you guys some beautiful nuggets where you can go home and use them for your own limiting beliefs and empowering yourselves and shifting your mindset. So Shireen, what was in your mind when you actually, I know you chose this topic, what was in your mind?
So I think when we were looking at it, I was thinking more about the idea of what is a paradigm, and what, when we have a situation happening in our life, what are the paradigms that we're running into? So I guess one of the things is to really pay attention to the idea or the concept that a paradigm is a set of kind of beliefs that sit within a structure. And so what I kind of think about, so I was busy talking a little bit about what was shifting in the sense of trauma. And so if we go with an idea like PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder, there'll be a whole lot of criteria that would sit with that, with what that name means. So that would then give you a certain kind of idea what would be the symptoms that you would experience with PTSD. So for me, it was really about, okay, so if someone is sitting in a situation when they're traumatized, what are the things that predispose us to trauma? So for example, someone doesn't really experience, not everybody experiences PTSD, right? In the traditional sense, but we all experience trauma. So what makes trauma one thing as opposed to another? What gives us PTSD and what doesn't? So I was really thinking, well, what's sitting underneath that? What's the paradigm that we're running that then predisposes us to really be affected with PTSD or not? And so that was really what was motivating my thinking here. But I also know that trauma happens all the time. And even though we may not recognize it, it's very useful to kind of look at what are the thoughts and the feelings and the ideas that we're running that might be something that's a historical or a legacy that we carry. So, for example, if you've come from another country, then you'll be bringing your information from that country, but you're coming into a different world, right? And so you're having to change the way you think and adapt in order to fit into that. And that can be very stressful. And there's a lot of conflict if you carry certain kinds of definite beliefs and things like that, and you're into this place and they're totally different. So yeah, that was where I was thinking about it. And I'd love to know, Grant, because I know you see so many people, and I'd love to know what you think about paradigms.
Thank you. Well, yeah, trauma can be inherited. Can be inherited from your family, from your DNA, which may sound out there, but it's not really, because we inherit traits, don't we, from our family members?
Yeah.
And why is that? Well, it's a thing called DNA. We all have habits like our parents. We all have expressions or movements because it's wired in our DNA. Trauma can be the same. So if you was to imagine, for example, you may have a strange fear of stepping off a train when it gets to the station. Why? Makes no sense. No sense at all. Not until if you went back for your family records and spoke to old family members and found out that your great-great-grandmother stepped off a train and broke their ankle. And was therefore always frightened, traumatized by stepping off a train, because years ago, trains, you could open the doors when they're still moving. You can't do that now, obviously, safety factor, but in most countries. but you could years ago. So in Victorian times, for example, they could. So if they did that and they was traumatized, that trauma can be passed through genes and from one generation to another. Hence why you have a strange pathological fear of certain things that make no real logical sense. They do make logical sense if you understand a few factors, but if you don't understand about inherent trauma, then that would make no sense. So yeah, absolutely, that can be passed on. But when it comes to the power of paradigms, the power of these patterns, and how to recognize a shift in your mindset, my first thoughts would be how to do it. Don't leave it to chance. In other words, whenever I'm coaching my clients, they will all know, if anyone's watching, you will have a dashboard and we will set up your actions which lead to your results. So if there is a shift, you will see something right there. It will show up and I'll go, what's that? What happened there? Why is there a shift? We will recognize it. It won't be left to chance. So it's what I see. Some people will have a little resistance to tracking things, numbers, particularly, right? I don't like it, but I love the success it brings. So I've grown to love it, and I try to help my clients with that. And I'll say that it's a signpost to success. So when it comes to the power of paradigms and learn how to recognize the mindset shift, track your actions, track your results, and it will show up. And that's how you'll be able to recognize it. One way, there's lots of ways, but that's one way you can recognize it. And there's many ways I'm sure we could explore a bit later. Nomsa, over to you. What's your thoughts on this great subject?
I love it when you and Shireen mentioned that trauma can be transferred from one generation to another. And that is true. And that's why you have to break the code of, we call it a code of like mother, like daughter, like father, like son, or like grandparents. So you have to break that code in order for you to live your own life and create, have that mind shift, and knowing that you are living your own identity. So there are some things that we inherit from our bloodline. And also, Shireen, you mentioned that when you come from another country, a different culture can cause trauma as well, because when you enter somebody else's land, you have to learn their culture, you have to understand how they live, which I found it really difficult when I came to the UK. I had to adapt from African culture to United Kingdom culture, which was really hard. For me, where I come from, when somebody wants to scream, you go private and scream and shout at each other. But here, like if I'm on the train, I will see like people arguing. I'll be like, oh, what is happening? Is this person normal? Until I got used to all those things and having roast dinners for Sunday and fish and chips. So all those things, the beautiful things like in United Kingdom that I had to go, which is I had to learn. For me personally, I had to go and learn the United Kingdom. It's a beautiful culture, actually, if you take time and get to know it. And when I got to know it and I ask English people sometimes, they didn't know what I was talking about, but they've lived here all their lives. But that culture exists. So it's beautiful. And also, you can develop a limiting beliefs as well that can cause limiting beliefs. And that's when paradigm shift is very, very important. And also, when you are feeling stuck and feeling like what Grant was saying, that how he works with his clients, that you have a chart where if there's something, like if there is a shift, and your clients can recognize it straight away. So it is very, very important. So I'm going to pass it back to Shireen.
Thoughts were just running in my mind, and I started to think about the idea of a paradigm shift. And I think what really started to come into my mind was thinking about it. It's a total reorientation, isn't it? It's a total reorientation into another way of thinking, almost a whole different way of thinking, that you will speak, hear, think, move, do everything that's going to be totally different. And it becomes the new you, right? So it's not just about changing behaviors, it's changing all of you, because under the paradigm sits everything. So you could probably think of it like a personality and a trait, right? Someone has a personality and they have a trait. A trait may be something that they will show every now and then. But if you talk about someone, you're thinking more like a global personality, right? They're like this, and it's almost like it's fixed and it's stuck. But we, of course, know nobody is fixed and stuck, but we do have a kind of a temperament, and we do have ways of being. And part of this idea of a paradigm shift is really to be able to recognize that you're literally shifting your brain in a way into a new form of looking at the world, looking and perceiving the world, and having the willingness. I think there's something about the willingness to look and to see what you think is there, and see, is it really there? Is it something else? So it does require a huge amount of effort. And I love that you said there, Grant, we must, don't leave it. I loved that, because actually that is the real thing. So paying attention when we're shifting the paradigm, or we're thinking about it, we've got to realize that we can't leave chance anymore. Sometimes things are forced on us, and it's often in some sort of catastrophic situation. But in general, that, when that happens, our whole world rocks. But isn't it nicer if we can do this voluntarily and change voluntarily, crack the code on something that's been limiting us, and break free from that? So yeah, that was something that was starting to come into my mind when we started thinking about that. And I literally thought about, what do? We literally have to move ourselves physiologically in a different way in order to see a difference. And I suppose when you think of those old-fashioned, different kinds of 3D pictures at one time, depending on how you look at the picture, you would see a different image, right? And a paradigm shift does require the constant ability to be able to see both and then choose. But once you've seen a picture and you've seen both images, you can never unsee it. And that is the greatest gift we have, because that means that we then have the potential to always be shifting and changing. And the brain likes to do that. The brain is perfect for that. So yeah, that was really something that started to kick in for me with regards to paradigm shift. So Grant, tell me, what is it that you've been thinking while we've been just talking?
Thinking, thanks, Shireen. I was thinking when you were talking about, your brain looks for changes, and it does. The brain is an evidence-based tool. It looks for evidence. So I said it on a call earlier. Mish, if you're listening, we was talking about nothing breeds success like success. And the brain looks for evidence of success. So if you get some success, this is why in sports coaching, people always try to get them some success, because once you get that, it sends a message to the brain that it can do this. This is possible. Let's use the whole sports analogy, the Roger Bannister 4-minute mile, that one, right?
Mm.
That it was impossible. Though a human would pass out, they couldn't run that fast. It can't be done. It's never been done, so therefore it can't be done. Except Roger Bannister went out and he literally raised the bar. Well, in fact, he extended the mile, because when he did it, he had the mile and he actually put the stop line or being a little bit further than the mile. So when he was running, which appeared to be a mile, it was actually a little bit further. So it was training hard to win easy. And he did it. And of course, he trained and trained and trained and did it and broke the 4-minute mile. The impressive thing was that once the evidence was there that it can be done, how long did he hold that title for?
Not very long.
Not very long. Because
it was about 3 months, wasn't it?
It can be done. So then it was superseded within a short space of time. But of course, we always remember Roger Bannister.
Yeah.
for what he done, because he raised the visor
Yeah.
and allowed us to see beyond the horizon, which is a great thing to do, which proves the brain isn't evidence-based at all. And it is. And, you know, here's a word of warning here, my friends, that once you start going down this rabbit hole, once you start exploring the mind, once you start exploring what is capable, once you start exploring what you can do, you start to lead a life less ordinary.
Yeah.
Now, here's the challenge. Sometimes you go back to the people you knew before, and there's a bit of a gap. You're speaking a different language. And it's like, I haven't read the same books, I haven't been to the same place. And it's, hang on, how do you communicate this to them? So this is where you start to become, I wouldn't say a teacher, because you must never teach this stuff if people haven't asked for it. Right? It doesn't need, no one wants people to lecture this stuff to you if they haven't signed up for the course, so to speak. Right? You know, a real rookie mistake of a coach or a therapist is you want to go around fixing everybody. Well, you know what? You've got no right to do it if they haven't asked for it. So just humbly be quiet. Oh, okay, you know, or just say, oh, okay. And a friend said to me the other day, you know, she's got a friend who's a coach, and then there's me. And she, knowing the coach you are and all the stuff you do, you have never coached me. And she said, thank you, you know, because we were friends. She's not alone. She said, but you know, sometimes you've given advice, and I just said, have you considered looking at it like that? And that's it. But I won't ever say, hey, okay, so tell me about that. What you know, what drove that thought? And I won't go into that stuff. It's great. But her friend was a coach, who's a newer coach. He will always go into that and like, oh my God, there's a coach. She can't just make a flippant statement without analyzing it. So you've got to learn to switch it on, switch it off, because once you go down this rabbit hole, it's there in front of your eyes the whole time. People start to become somewhat transparent to you, and you see what's going on. But of course, you must remember, what is the relationship you have with this person? If it's a friend, you're a friend. Remember to talk about the things you always spoke about. But you will feel that there's a slight distancing. And it's the same for anything. If you went and studied engineering, you start to look at the world a bit differently. And you'll come back and look at your home and your car a little bit differently to what you did before. There's always a shift. There's always a paradigm shift. But it's recognizing that that happened. So I think these tools, once you use them, once you recognize them and learn them, they have to be wielded with maturity. And that's where emotional intelligence comes in. And that's what was on my mind when you were saying that, Shireen. Nomsa, you've always got a million thoughts on these sort of subjects. What do you think about that?
I love it when you say with friends that you end up when the advice, like sometimes you don't have to when you shift, like right now we are coaches, and then we have our friends that we have, and those friends, if they're not interpersonal development, the language is different, and even family members, you'll find that the language is different as well. My sister was telling me 2 weeks ago that she misses me, and I was like, why do you miss me? And she was like, I miss that Nomsa. I was like, what? Which one now? Which one do you miss? I was like, she wants me, when she's naughty, she wants me to side with her, but I don't take sides. So she was like, that's what the Nomsa that she's missing. So I was like, you forget that, and I always give you advice to never get involved in people's business and stuff, but the Nomsa that she's missing is always there and is still there. But the only difference is me, I don't get involved in people's business. And when the families, like my siblings, when they are at it with each other, I try not to make things worse, to say this one is wrong or that one is wrong. I always tell them to woman up and just get real, because you know, like when we are siblings, we expect, like, let's say I'm into personal development, I would expect people to think like me. It's never going to happen. So I always tell my family and friends that you're never ever going to let somebody think like you. unless, like what Grant was saying, like that unless they've asked to actually for you to coach them, yes, they can then shift their mindset. But our values and beliefs when we work hard. And also I like Grant with the Roger Bannister that he actually broke the record. So by doing that, actually he exposed that the shift can actually, you can do whatever you want to do. That's why he didn't hold the record for too long, because others, they actually realize actually it can be done. Yes, if I shift my mindset, it can be done. And yes, it can be done. With our mind, like Grant, you were talking about the mind, you'll be surprised what the mind can do, what the mind can explore. And for me, I'm a witness of my own as well, that when I want to do something, sometimes my family call me crazy. They're like, what are you up to now? I don't hold back. I want to do something, I don't hold back. Because like what Grant was saying, that, you know, when you actually look through your mind, and Shireen, you mentioned that the willingness to think, when you have the willingness to think and see what your mind is capable of, and knowing that there are no limitations, and you can do the unthinkable as a human being, and then you start exploring things and stuff, then you can go further in life with it when you decided to shift your paradigm and shift your mindset. Like myself, I was raised in Africa, and there are attachment that were planted in my life. When I moved to United Kingdom, my stepdad said to me, Nomsa, you know your African friends. When you arrive in United Kingdom, see them as your family, but then go and make friends with the English people so that they can teach you what they know. Don't hang out in the African society only, mix. So that's why I'm here at Nkosi Talk Shows. I decided to take his advice and mix my African friends and my British friends, and together I've learned something from those people. You know, English, we have to be, a Black person we are thinkers. We are good with our mindset. But a white person comes in, they know more about how to run, how to actually help an architect and being a mentor and bring something out. Like they teach you how to invest, how with your mindset, how to use your mindset to invest and build something. So that's why when people are racist towards me, I'm like, no, white people are my brothers, because with a white person and a Black person, a billionaire is created there, because we all think different. And if we link our experiences together, we build something. So that's what I think, that there's the knowledge that I don't have. Like Grant, you guys, the English children, they get taught to invest money from a very young age. But in Africa, it's not that. My dad used to teach me how to invest money, but not every parents do that, because he's a teacher. So he got exposed into different culture. So that's when as a teacher, you have to teach your children to invest money from a very young age. But in Africa, it doesn't happen. But in this country, it's a tradition that when a child is born, they have an account. The government gives them an account, automatic £250. In that way, they get to invest money. The mindset, they grow up different. The parents, they help them. I help my children to invest money, put money away. So that is a British culture. So that is, together we can build something. That's what I think, that it is very, very important to actually see the world in a different place, not to hold on like myself. I'm African. I'm holding on to my African culture, and I'm not going to learn anything. So I want Grant to teach me what he knows, so I can build something out of my thinking and his mind together we can become something. And that's what this Roger Bannister did, to say, you know what, I'm going to break the record. And he did break the record. And somebody went, no, you're not going to beat me. I'm gonna take over. Over to you, Shireen.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, there are so many things you mentioned there, but I suppose, and I want to come back to all of it. But the one thing that really kicks in for me was,
and also Shireen as well. What I forgot, Shireen, you are in a white community in South Africa as well, yeah. So you get taught as well how to invest money. White communities, you guys, is automatic. Is it automatic or is it not? Okay.
No, okay. And I'm not even sure that it's automatic everywhere here, because how many people here pay into pensions? Other than the fact of a forced bit of pension that comes off your thing. How many people pay into pensions to prepare themselves for a future? Not many.
Yeah.
If you're working for a company that gives you a pension, or you work for the state or whatever, there is a pension that's attached, but not many people actually go out and put money away, right? So I don't think entrepreneurship is absolutely a natural state. I think it's a learned state. I think it's something that certain cultures do have more. I certainly think that, maybe that's why there have been so many wars in the world, because I do think a lot of the Jewish people really do know how to make money, right? You go to India and you can see how many people will be busy doing so much because they're living on a frugal space. And so therefore they have to find a way to make money. And they have to find a way to live. So that's endemic in certain cultures, but it isn't endemic in every culture. And I think sometimes a culture that may give children everything may not necessarily be bringing the best paradigm up for their kids if they're not encouraging their kids to really think for themselves in a different way. And there's one of the things that's really useful is to think about in the paradigm shift in the sense of this. When we're in a paradigm, it's like going into a group and being in a group think, right? So we go into a group and we follow what the group is saying, and we're doing what the group is saying. And if someone says something that's kind of outside of the group, depending on how they say it, they might get said, well, no, you don't agree with our group rules, so you've got to stay, you've got to go. Right? So we may have a situation where now we're in a place where we're very much in this paradigm of a group think. Now, our brain is a collective group. So in a way, we can equate a paradigm to a group and a certain type of sets of criteria fit that group. One of the things which I was really thinking about when Grant was talking about something that was so important, and I think it is so important, is when you evolve in a different way, when you move into the paradigm shift and you're starting to see the world, it can be very exciting and it can be really lovely, and we can want to fix everybody and we want to do everything for everybody, but it can also make us a little bit arrogant because now we've separated and we're in this place where we almost put ourselves, because this is kind of the natural thing that happens with mentalizing, it does separate us from our feeling, right? And it does put us in the potential where we can be in that state of arrogance. So I loved what you said there, Grant. It's so important that you reconnect to your friends, even or your parents, that you don't go in and you say, oh, I don't know why you're doing this, da, 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 da. Really, you need to just link into the love and recognize that doesn't matter where they are, you love them, and connect with that place so that you can still have that difference in relationship.
Can I ask you, Shireen, before you go further, on behalf of the audience, how do you reconnect with somebody if they are actually difficult? If your mindset is in a place?
I think the first thing you've got to do is be at peace with yourself, right? Because if you're not at peace with yourself, that resonance is going to irritate the heck out of the other person too. And it's going to be very hard to actually be able to step in their shoes and actually get their feeling so that you can speak to the feeling. Because if people are being very difficult, you know, it's because at a very basic level, they are frightened. They are scared they're going to lose something. And if you can't find out what that is, then you're not going to cross that bridge. You have to spend time to just really sit and breathe and just think about, that's why I said, think about the love. If you know somebody, think about the love. That is often a real connection that allows you to just stop and actually ask a different question. It calms your mind enough so that you can shift your mind and not stay in a locked pattern, but now you're moving into a different one where you become co-creative with that person. So I think the most important, the key is that you are at peace. And when you're at peace, it's everything else becomes so much easier. So that was for me, that is the key. And I've learned this so many times when I'm in a therapy session, that stuff is going on. And I just go, okay, this is my call. Take a nice deep breath, just breathe. I'll ask the client to breathe. But what I'll be doing is I want to manage my state first and really spend a little bit of time thinking, okay, I'm reacting. What's going on for me here? Right? Maybe I'm thinking, why are they not getting this message that I'm sort of telling them? I'm asking this question, but it may be that I'm asking the wrong question, right? Really the meaning of the communication, my communication is often the response I'm getting. That's the key. So if you really embody that, then you lose nothing by just stopping and just thinking, okay, what do I really want here? I want to have a connection. I want to connect with this person. You know, I want to, and even if I don't, how can I leave the situation, which is still an okayness, right? That we're not mortal enemies, but that we leave and we wish each other well, right? So for me, that's really the key of how we must walk our life. If we want to change a paradigm shift, we have got to do a couple of things, which is, first of all, manage our internal emotional state. And then second, we've got to be able to know how to flip and understand what each of those states are so that we can name them and name them for people so we can explain, well, this is what I'm feeling, right? I don't know whether you've experienced that, but I really do think that the moment you start to do that and own your own feelings, then other people don't feel so frightened, right? And it also makes you more vulnerable, and they're more able to back down a little bit because they're scared. So that's what that's my motto in life. That's why my name's Love Grove, because it's love. Love is my middle name. I do share love too, so I'm a double love. Yeah. So that was really what really impressed me so much when you said that, Grant, because it just felt such a powerful bit of information that we need, and we need to keep that paradigm and be thinking about that. How can I go into this conversation with love, or at least with the acknowledgement of this human being as a wonderful human being?
Absolutely, sure. I'm glad that meant something to you, and I hope it means a lot to other people, because, when we go through life, we see people who aren't on the same page as us. Maybe we're not on the same page as them. It doesn't always presuppose that we've got the right answers, because we've learned something. They've learned lots of things. I always remember when being about 16 years of age, thereabouts. Of course, I knew everything at 16, didn't I? Because every 16.
Oh God, don't we all?
Yeah. And I was telling my father about the world, and how he had it wrong, and he was trying to explain to me. And I was like, and my father in the end, but there's no point. There's no point trying to put an old head.
Is he still alive, Grant, your dad?
No.
Okay.
And the point was, long so that he said, he said, there's no point. He says, there's no point trying to put an old head on young shoulders. So he looked at me and he thought, no, you're not listening. So there's no point in having a conversation. You'll work it out yourself one day. And I did. And I often look back, I was like, God, how right he was. You know, where did he learn this stuff from? What's a thing called life? You know, and my father had this uncanny perception of taking the complicated and making it simple, which I think is absolute genius. If I've inherited any skill from him, I think it's that a lot of the time, because coaches, hypnotherapists, all of us, we love to make things overcomplicated. And the other day I was on some a group call, and it's an elite group of students, and I used to do master classes, and there was a new student who said, hey Grant, I love the master class you did on goal setting. Really? He said, yeah. He said, you said some great stuff in there. He said, and you used a phrase, he said, which really made him laugh. This guy's an entrepreneur, right? He said, and I'd forgotten that I'd said it, and I said, blah, 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 blah. This is quite a simple model that works really well. But for the entrepreneurs out there, entrepreneurs love to overcomplicate everything. And he laughed because he's an entrepreneur. He said, you're so right. We overcomplicate everything and we can't leave anything alone because we're entrepreneurs. But the trick is sometimes to just leave it because it works. And, you know, so I took the complicated and made it simple. And I think I got that from my father. And it's a wonderful skill. But the skill, you see, my father had was loving people. And he could see people. And he understood where I was at that point, and he thought, hey, he's 16, you know, he's growing, he's learning things, he's a man going out in the world, you know, let him do it. He'll work it out, and he'll come. He was always there for advice, always there. But he thought, at that point, this is not the time to lecture my son. It's the time to let him grow. And I think that was the very, very smart thing that he did. Because certainly later on, I was like, oh no, I should have listened to Dad. He was so right, you know. And it's it just grows respect, man, you know. And I often said, if I can end up being half the man he was, then I'll be a very successful man, because he was a great person in and never shouted about it, never needed an audience, you know. He was always a very modest man, quiet man, not a man of many words, but he would listen to people talking for hours. Would probably stand up, then as he walked out, standing up and walking to the door, he would say about 3 sentences that encapsulated everything. And you're like, how did he do that? Because he'd listened and he watched and he understood life. And I'm going to paraphrase the hell out of this, but in the words of the great late Buckminster Fuller, if you watch the world, if you watch the universe go by, you see the gears of the world in front of you. In other words, if you just watch the world, and I've always done, if you just watch, you'll see how it works. You see how this life is strapped together. If you just be quiet and observe and see how humans act, you're like, I get it. I see how this thing all bolts together. It's the clues are all there in front of you. This comes back to previous episodes. So when we've spoken about presence, when I'm not saying I can do it to order, but when I do a presence exercise with clients, I can see what's going on with them. I could even understand what their profession is without them telling me. Certain things I can read. And I don't think that's anything special I'm doing. I think everybody can do it. But it just means you're looking at them, because it's all written on their face, if you choose to notice. And I think that is being humble and looking at other people, looking into the soul and seeing where they are at that point. And that's always the thing. I think if you go around, and you alluded to this wonderfully just now, Shireen, and go around with that love and intent, if you go around with a situation and think, how can I spread some love into this situation? How can I make the situation better? That's the key thing. And this is something we were trying to impress upon someone this week, who they have a need to criticize. Always criticize people. They clearly get something from it, but it doesn't help people. It makes people turn against this person. I was trying to encourage them to encourage people rather than criticize. Because in life, if you praise someone for the things you would like more of them to do, they're quite clearly going to like that, and they're going to do more of those good things. You criticize them and you're going to have this. There's not a time to do it. Again, if you watch the world, how it works, it's pretty straightforward if you slow down and take notice. But always go out and always trying to, I think, my thought is, how can I leave this person in better condition than I found them? And if you go out with that, with a loving intent, and there's the key word, loving intent, that's it. You can go into a situation where there's a conflict with someone. And it's a bit of a hypnotic thing, which I learned years ago, is about if you can just radiate love from your heart, just sit there and almost now just feel you're just spreading love to everybody. You can have the same conversation, but this somehow comes through your pores. People can sense this in your scent, your body language, tone of voice, and they understand that you're not an enemy. You come in peace, and you're here to spread love. People feel that, and the conversation, the situation tends to go better. So, if you haven't tried that one, play with that one. It's a great superpower, and it helps people, and it helps you. That's what I wanted to say. Nomsa, do you do anything like that? What do you think?
I like the superpower, but people can be very complicated sometimes. Honestly, me, I don't do. I think if me and your dad would have gone on really well. I don't do complication. I like to actually make things very simple, but sometimes what I realize is with people, it's like with my friends, I had to walk away from some of my friends, like when I decided to get into personal development. Like if we go and we have, like, let's say we are 5 girls and somebody will be asking, oh, here's Nomsa, and they'll be like, I like your talk show online. So the minute I start my conversation and somebody else will be like, the conversation will be like a conversation that is competing with me. So then I had to move myself away because you realize that actually you're not getting any support. It's like me being the person that I am, I'm actually competing with the other person. So I had to move myself away. And, when you move yourself away, there are things that you can tolerate, like with your mindset that you can tolerate. But there are different people categories that people can help you to go to the next level, but there are people that can bring you down. And there are people that are there for the season as well to help you, and then they're gone. And so you don't have to be like, oh, why this person comes into my life and they're gone. They were there for a purpose and they go. So I find that when Shireen said, learn to reconnect with your family, reconnect with your loved ones. I've tried that. Some people, I reconnect with them. I give too much love, too much, in a way that sometimes you'll find that people have they have a different mindset of what kind of a person they think you should be. But I have a friend. I love this girl so much. She's one of my stylists as well at Hope Springs Talent Production Agency. She's actually bonkers. I accept her. She accepts me for who I am. She always admires me for the person that I am. And when she tells me, she goes, I think, Nomsa, I need your advice. I'm not good at talking with men. I just crush them. She goes, I just crush them. I was like, tell me more. And I was like, you can't tell men like that. You can't speak to men like. She tells me as it is. She does things because she watches the talk show, and she's like, I recognize when you guys talk. I recognize that this is me. This is me. And then she'll come to me and give me a phone call. She goes, I think I need your help with this. And I'm like, what is going on? She goes, I don't know. When I go on dates, I just tell men off straight away. Or sometimes I'm trying to communicate, and sometimes men are annoying me, and I just tell it as it is, and they're like, you are a bit harsh. She recognizes her faults, and then I would just talk to her and say, girl, you cannot talk to anybody like that. Imagine me talking to you. And you see her mindset just shift, and she'll be like, yeah, you're telling me, you're right. But because she watches the talk show and she follows us, she's hilarious. She says things as they are. She's like, I need your help, coaches, because I'm just trashing people. if somebody is like this, I just go, you know what, I don't want to waste my time with you. So those are the kind of people that sometimes I find it hard to actually connect with. I love to reconnect with people, but sometimes I believe that you have to leave people behind. There's some people that you have to leave behind. Love them, don't judge them, but leave them behind. And those people, they're the ones that actually change because they see you being an example of the change, and they want to change. They come to you, they're like, I don't want my life to be like this. I want the paradigm shift. How do I shift my mindset to become the best? So I find that, and I find when you try to cling on to somebody and trying to change, like Grant's dad, he was like giving Grant some nuggets, you know, son, you could do things better. And Grant is like, you know what, old man, I'm not going to listen to you. And now Grant gets into personal development. He's like, oh, he was right. You say, so those are those are all those things that sometimes we take things for granted. And there are some our parents, they are gifted. It's like my dad. My dad was never a psychologist, but when he spoke, when he did things like a psychologist. And that's why I go into psychologist. I was like, I need to be a good example in my family, like how he was. He was a man that loved so much. He loved his family so much and his friends. It's like if you go in the area and you say, I am Nomsa Clara Mube, and they're like, who's your father? I'm like, witness, I know your dad. I was like, it's like we've got too many daddies like looking after us because of him. So he's an amazing person. Back to the topic, I think it's amazing that when Grant was saying that your dad was he knew how to turn a complicated situation and make it very, very simple. And that, I think that is the example of paradigm, how to recognize the shift with your mindset. Is an amazing thing that when somebody does that, it's really, really amazing. And you can do it, you can use it on your leadership as well, and just help your company as well with the mindset, with your mindset. I see, like in my office, there's this guy that he's so nice. They've got, because in my office it's the Henley Business Center, so you have different offices, but there's this guy that he is so nice. And sometimes you see people arguing. So I'm like, you don't know what you have. If you were to sit on the other side and ask me a question, what do I think about this guy, the manager that you have? Is a very, very nice guy. He would do anything for anybody, but people don't appreciate it. They're always mourning and whinging and complaining. So, but then if we were to shift our mindset and we become something. So, Shireen, and I have a question that I need to ask for the audience. How do you recognize your strength and your weaknesses when it comes to shifting your mindset? How do you go about it if you know that, like my friend I was talking about, who is a different
Well, I think one of the things that I do now, I had a client recently who she's had some kids, and she was suffering really, or struggling with a sense of self-esteem, and there are a lot of reasons around that. But what was really interesting was actually getting her to look at what she had done before. So, and making her realize that she was more than what she thought she was, right? So we started to go through things of where she had achieved things, or what made her special, or what were the lovely little things that they had done in her life before, that then brought her into this reality that actually, yeah, this is a blip. This is where I am right now. But actually, I have all these other things, right? So I think one of the things that really help is to get people to really look at where they do things very easily, right? What are the skills that they have that are just really easy, that someone else might find very difficult? Because very often people undervalue what they do easily. But actually, what they do easily is a real power, right? And so one of the things is really to start them to shift and see, first of all those wonderful things that they can do. And I think what we do is I think that's the one thing that often happens is we invalidate those successes. And I know that me, when I had imposter syndrome, and still do occasionally have to click back into my mindset and change it, is really checking through, hey, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, right? And then really building one's sense of self-esteem. So, and then also looking at, where do I want to go, right? Where do I want to go? And do I have the skills that I can map across? Or do I need new skills? And skills are a different thing, because the skill doesn't say anything about who you are as a person, right? Skills just mean something that you can do. And skills can be learned, and skills can be mapped across. And we can stand in a situation of, well, if I did that, those are some of the skills that I had learned in this particular thing. How can that apply here? And I think when you start to use that and know that you've got a lot of things already in your little toolkit that you can build on where you're moving to, helps quite a lot in giving that sense of a confidence boost. And that also helps you shift your mindset a lot faster. And of course, I think other things are really being in an environment where people see you and see your potential. And I think that's also something that's quite important. So hanging around, as you were mentioning earlier on, hanging around people that really don't see you as a threat, but they see you as the person you can become. I think that can be a really powerful way. And I think that's where you choose your friends carefully, right? At least the friends that are going to be in your immediate set, that they're going to be the ones that are going to actually say, you know, what I appreciate about you is this, right? And they will then give you something, or, you know, when you did that, I really thought that was brilliant, you know, and because you did this and this and this. Because the more specific you get, the better quality information gets fed into the system. And that then builds you even more. So for me, that is one of the, I hope I answered the question, but is there something there that's still missing? I'm not sure, but that was the thing that really came up for me when I was hearing that question. Grant, I'm sure you'll have something there, because I saw you nodding and I saw you also writing. So I know that there's something coming up.
Yeah, it's a lovely point you made there. And of course, it's about mapping across. And it's a lovely expression I always use is, you know, transferable skills, like mapping across. What can you use? What do you already have? Because quite often, I had this conversation earlier, that there's a certain skill from a certain trainer that I know who is in a former industry, and you can map these things across. And something I spent a lot of my life doing is learning skills from other industries that I've worked in. And even when I watch TV, people don't watch TV, it's bad. Well, I disagree. You know, it depends what you choose to watch on TV, right? I watch movies, but I watch documentaries, a lot of documentaries about business, about art, famous people, about war, about economics, and see how the correlation with all these things, how they all come together, how these skills or these analogies or these scenarios can map across. That's what I spent most of my life doing. And you start to see the patterns, the paradigms of life, of success. And the study of success is what I've been studying since I was 14 years of age, one way or another. And it's just an obsession for me. So when you look at it, what can you know, or where do you need to upskill? And I think once it goes back to our old friend, Roger Bannister, once it shows you the way and you see that it can be done, that allows people's fear to drop. When you can be done. When your fear drops, guess what? Your ego drops with it. You haven't got so much to prove, which is a lovely heart-centered place to be. Once you do that, you don't go out correcting everybody in the world, right? Like your friend of trashing everybody, because that's fear. That's fear, that's ego, right? When we do it. And even if we all do it on occasion, when you ask yourself that question, Shireen said, what's going on with me? And I do that sometimes. What's going on with you today, Grant? Why is that triggered you? What is it? What's that about? And you trace it back. That's it. That reminds me of that. And that's why that's true. I get it. It all makes it. It's like when you wake up and you feel a bit odd one day and you can't work out. And it gets to about midday and you're like, oh, I get it. I had a bad dream. That's why I woke up and felt bad. It all makes sense once you trace it back. So when you understand what's going on with you, that there's always a reason. So once you learn the possibilities, it takes fear away. Your ego reduces with it, because ego is just masked fear, really. Once it goes away, it becomes possible. You become nicer. You radiate love. And guess what? It's just like a radar. It bounces back. Whatever you give bounces back. So that's the secret. Relax. Know it's possible. These things are learnable skills. No matter what you're doing in life. We had a coach years ago, and she said she can't sell. She doesn't know how to sell. I had a funny prediction, and I was right. This person's going to end up being a really good person at selling. And they became really good because she went out and learned how to sell. Right? She became a lot better. Some of the naturally gifted people. She learned how to do it. Some people are naturally gifted at it. They've never had those hesitations. Great. But they'll have a challenge elsewhere in their life. And of course, the way to get over that could be a learned skill. So you can always get over things. So where do you need to utilize the skills you already have? Or where do you need to import some new skills and to match them? And if you just consistently learn new things, it hasn't got to be a big old deal. It's just a natural churn. And I think with me, it's about learning that it doesn't have to be a monumental effort, but rather than a daily process of continuously building. And the key word here is going to be the word that begins with M and ends with N, momentum. It's about momentum. It's that penny in the bank every day. It's that, one more press up every morning. It's that one extra piece of fruit. It's that those small monumental pieces, small, but it's monumental, right? So it creates momentum. That's the secret to success. So if you do think I need to learn X, right, don't panic. It hasn't got to be done in a week. Just take your time and map it out. Just break it down, as I've said many, many times, one slice at a time. How do you eat an elephant? One mouthful at a time. Just take it, and before long, you look back because you have your tracker, right? Which I said at the beginning. You have your tracker and you look how far you've come in the last 2, 3, 4 weeks, and you're really impressed. And then that means your ego goes down further because you've got less to prove. The more your ego goes down, you become more attractive to other people, and opportunities come your way because you radiate something. You've got the juice. You radiate it, but you don't necessarily need to tell people. They can feel it. And I think that is that's lightning in a bottle once you get that stuff. So it's working on yourself. It's always, people always want to learn great skills to be able to do this, make more money, do this. The unsexy work, but the most powerful stuff is the work we do on ourselves, because that's the platform that leverages everything else. So what I wanted to say, Nomsa, what's your thoughts? What's going through your mind? What's your experience?
I love that, working on yourself, and also you mentioned the skills, how they map across the ground. I think that is true as well. And, everything in life starts with us. The more we work on ourselves, the more people will attract good people in our lives. And those who come into our lives, if they're not meant to be there, they're not going to be there. So I think that is very, very, very important. And also, Shireen, you what did you say? You said when you were talking to your clients, you made her realize that she's more than what she thinks, and we all are. What we think to be true about ourselves is more than what we think. And what Grant is saying, that if we can actually take time to go deep into ourselves within and just see what we are capable of, we could build something, an amazing world. And yeah, I'm with you on that one, Grant. Life starts with us, and we have the power to decide who we could become, and we have our mindset is more. The more you meditate, the more you work on yourself. That's when you actually connect with yourself and connect with the that power within, and then businesses are built, companies are built. There are some people who don't want to start their own businesses, but they work for other companies. But in that company, the owners, they know that if this person leave, my company will never be the same, because of the mindset that that person has, the mindset of researching, learning the skills. Like Grant, you were saying that you started learning the skills from a very young age. There are people who are very, very talented as well that I've come across that all they do is when they come in to the company, they just want to take the company to the next level. And they just bring the skills, they do research, they don't mind, they don't care that it's not their company. What they care about is to show you the results, that I can be who I say I can be when you gave me the interview, and I want to take this to the next level. And I think that is really, really amazing. If somebody can shift their mindset, learning the skills and mapping the skills all together and just become something. Like Shireen, what you do, the job that you do is an amazing job, that you just take people to the next level where somebody feeling stuck. And because sometimes when women mostly, when we have children and we don't go to work, we lose that self-touch. We lose ourselves, because we believe that just because we're a housewife, we're no longer something. But actually we are something, because managing a home is a difficult thing. And having these men coming to work, putting their socks wherever they want, granted, and when they watch TV and the remote control, it goes wherever it goes, and then a woman has to mentor and make sure that everything is fine. A man is an architect, a woman is a mentor. So that's how I say it. And I think it's amazing. Thank you so much, Grant and Shireen, for that. And I hope our audience, they're going to use all this to create something. And if anyone is watching and you want to follow Grant or Shireen, please do so. Before we leave, Shireen, could you please tell our audience quickly the words of encouragement and tell them who you are and where they can find you, please?
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, I think the one thing is, for me, that is, be aware of possibility. So if something could be done by one person, it can be done by you, right? If you have a desire and a wish and someone has achieved that, and it means that there is potential. So just allow yourself to imagine yourself in that space of unlimited potential. And as Grant said earlier on, you eat an elephant one bite at a time, just break it down. I think that's the real key thing. And actually, it's a good reminder for me, Grant. So thank you. I'm really pleased. Yeah, for me, I'm Sharon Upgrove, of course, and I help women that are pregnant, struggling to get pregnant, or have just had a baby. Basically, just to help them deal with their mindset so that they can become the mothers that they want to be, and not worry about things that are going to go wrong, because a lot of women tend to get very worried, and I spend a lot of time dealing with that. So I help them see life in a whole different way. So you can connect with me on LinkedIn, you can connect with me on Facebook, and I'm on Instagram. Grant?
Thanks, Shireen. Thank you. Yeah, I just want to say to everybody, words of encouragement. If you don't know what it is you want, I could probably help you find out what it is that you're passionate about and what you want to do. If you do know what it is and you don't know how to do it, I can help you create a plan. because there is always a plan. There's always a step-by-step way of creating momentum to take you from where you are now to where you want to go. It's all inside of you. I'll help you find out where your magic is and to bring it out and polish it so you can share it with the world. Who am I? I'm Grant Morrell. I'm an international speaker, coach, trainer, and an international best-selling author. And over the past 20 years, myself and an international team have helped thousands of individuals, entrepreneurs, business owners, and organizations across 15 plus countries. We've helped them to make great breakthroughs in their life, their career, their business, and even increase their profits up to 200%, often in just a few short months. How? By working with their team, because everybody does actually have a team if you understand where they are, and I can help you do that. With their systems, their mindset, and their strategy, so that they can live a life of passion, purpose, and freedom, and develop a business and a lifestyle that can become a legacy for generations to come. Yes, you can find me on all the social media places. There's my Instagram there, but you can find me on all those places. And if you can't, just reach out to Nomsa and she will show you where to connect. I'd love to work with you more, help you more if I can. But most of all, go out there, be good to yourself and be good to other people. Nomsa, over to you.
Thank you so much, Grant and Shireen. For me, I'm just going to leave you with this paradigm shift. In order for you to actually live the life that you want, you have to ask yourself, what do you believe to be true about yourself? And what do others believe about you? Do you believe what others believe, or do you believe what you believe? And how do you show up in the world as well is very, very important, because how you show up in the world, your outer world, it will represent your inner world. So how you show up, if you see that it's not aligned with what you believe to be true about yourself, you can get in touch with us at Ngosi Talk Shows. Will help you find your own voice and lead from within. And you actually, when you actually come to Ngosi Talk Shows and work with the coaches at Ngosi Talk Shows, you will step outside feeling good on the inside. Not like me, how I used to step. I used to feel good. I used to work on myself on my outer world. When I stepped outside, I used to make sure that I didn't step in the mud. I used to look good, but on the inside, I was broken. Until I realized, you know what? I need to find my voice within. And when I did, I never looked back. So that's what we do at Ngosi Talk Shows. And if you want to connect with Grant and Shireen, please do, or any other coaches at Ngosi Talk Shows, you can get in touch with me on the website www.hseia, and just send me an email or call. There's a mobile number on the website, and there's an office number as well. So you can call, and I'll connect you with any speakers or coaches that you want to connect with. Live with grace, everyone, and God bless.